Hello and good afternoon. The time is now 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Want to first and foremost thank everybody for joining today's TMC Connect web broadcast entitled An Economic Outlook on what changes, what will stay the same, and what is to come, led by Senior Vice President and Chief Economist at Stewart Title, Dr. Ted C. Jones. So before jumping into today's discussion, just want to go through a couple of quick housekeeping items to help maximize everyone's broadcast for today. First and foremost, want to remind our attendees to check out our TMC Connect and member event calendar pages on the Mortgage Collaborative website. And this is where you'll be able to view an upcoming schedule of TMC Connect broadcasts. We have 7 sessions in total lined up for this week, including a pair of discussions later this afternoon around leadership, as well as managing cybersecurity and IT risks for your remote staffs. So also want to encourage our attendees, keep checking in as we're constantly adding new sessions and building out additional topics for the weeks to come, largely based off the feedback that we're hearing from you, our members and preferred partners here at the Mortgage Collaborative. In regards to today's discussion, first off, whether you've dialed in or connected via your computer, all lines have been muted for the call. And this is done only to avoid any background noise in your area and to ensure that all attendees can clearly hear today's discussion. And we want these discussions to be as interactive as possible, so please feel free to submit your questions throughout the call, and I'll go ahead and verbalize them on your behalf with Dr. Ted towards the end of the discussion. Now, how do you do that? Well, questions can be submitted either via the chat function or the Q&A box, both of which are accessible on the bottom of your Zoom menu. And today's call will be recorded and available for playback. Attendees will receive a copy of the slide deck as well as the link to the recording in an email follow-up that you should receive later today or tomorrow. So today's discussion is being led by TMC Preferred Partner Stewart Title, and with us to guide us is the Senior Vice President and Chief Economist at Stewart Title, Dr. Ted C. Jones. A little bit about Dr. Ted. Prior to his current role, Ted served as First Director of Investment Relations at Stewart Information Services Corporation for 17 years. And then prior to his time at Stewart, Ted also served as Chief Economist at Texas A&M University's Real Estate Center, which happens to be the largest publicly funded real estate research group. Ted is also an internationally recognized real estate expert with experience in appraisal and property analysis across the globe. And Ted also earned a PhD in finance and a master's degree in land economics and real estate from Texas A&M University, as well as holding a Bachelor of Science degree from the Colorado State University. So Ted, we're extremely grateful for you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to help lead today's discussion and provide some perspective for the benefit of our members at TMC. So on that note, I want to jump right into things, and I will go ahead and turn it over to you to lead today's discussion. Ted, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Honored to be here, guys. It's a great group to be talking in front of. Now, every year I have to come up with a new speech topic for the following year in October. So last year I picked this topic and the beat goes on. I decided to adopt those 2 philosophers and economists from 1967, Sonny and Cher. Yeah, you're supposed to laugh there, guys. But the reason I picked that topic, and it's so apropos today, that song, The Beat Goes On, talks about what changes, what stays the same, and what's to come. Who knew this what's to come is this doggone virus that's going around right now? Now, we have to put a few things in perspective. We are under stressful times, in Americans in particular. We go to humor to relieve a lot of that stress. Now, I love this one, social distancing down under. They're one adult kangaroo apart. Now, I spoke in Laredo, Texas via Zoom earlier this past week, and we talked about it there. It would be one adult rattlesnake apart. In this morning on the call to Miami, I guess one mid-sized alligator apart. Y'all get it. I mean, we're all doing this thing. The one thing that I do want to practice myself is some social distancing from the fridge. I noticed you had a lot more hair, and some people are putting on more weight. I feel good. I'm still in my same belt loop. Even CVS is joking about this. From their store, please distance yourselves at least 6 feet apart with the average length of one CVS receipt. It's really cool when we can laugh at ourselves. Now, in this home period time, and I assume most of y'all are at home, I'm actually in my office, believe it or not, at the headquarters, but we've invented a lot of new sports, indoor luge racing. There's one of the things you can do with your leftover Amazon Prime ones. This one I particularly love because here we are on Zoom. Of course, we're not seeing everyone here today, but this has got to be the little GIF that's going to prevent us from ever looking at a Zoom video the same ever again. And I don't know how many of you all are going to copy this right now, but I'm sure it's more than one if you think about that. And so we'll go from there. So what can I say? Now, every year, I speak up in Alaska for a week, end of January, beginning of February. And when I'm up there, speaking for our company, for Stuart, and for our customers, what have you, it's during the ceremonial start of the Iditarod sled dog race. It's during Fur Rendezvous when all the trappers bring in their pelts and hides from the bush. You have a big fur auction. You ought to see kids on a roller coaster in the middle of February at 20 below zero outside in Anchorage, laughing and having a great time. It's when they have this ice carving contest, and I got this idea, and the beat goes on. And I figured what was good about it, what things change, what stays the same, it was election year. So I want you to look at the words here first. Great words. I don't mean la-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-dee. I mean these words. Charleston wants the rage. We used to dance the Charleston. We still dance, but not the Charleston. Y'all are moving to a completely other change, teeny bopper. Well, when I am back in the 70s, 60s, I was that teenager. Now the teeny bopper was the millennials, but remember, millennials, the oldest one this year, turned 40. And you can beg off being an adult when you're in your 30s, but when you're 40s, it's all over. I guess that new teeny boppers are Gen Z. So here's what's different right now, and this is going to impact us. This is why I'm going to disagree with some of the forecasts out there. Look at these unemployment claims. Now, our all-time prior record in 7 days, we had 695,000 people apply in October of 1982 in a 7-day period. When we first commenced kicking this back up, March 25th, we upped that by a factor of almost 5-fold. Then we doubled again the next week. If you go through this thing, before we started this, we have 164 million people in the workforce. We had 6 million unemployed. Today we have 36 million unemployed. We're at 22% unemployment rate. And herein lies, that's one of the reasons I think that a large number of people will not be able to refinance at these all-time record low rates because they just lost their credit rating. And even those that still have a job, if they miss any payments, are going to lose that. Now, good news, bad news. Let's just lay it out there. Good news is we didn't have a recession last year. It didn't start last year. Recession is defined as 2 more quarters of negative GDP, all positive. I'm going to use Goldman's forecast. Goldman says that the first quarter of this year, even though January and February were phenomenal, Goldman says that March is going to take the entire quarter down 9%. Total value of all the goods and services. Second quarter minus 34%. Do you realize that's the largest plunge in GDP in the history of the United States? Here's what Goldman has. That's turning the quarter in Q3. They're showing us positive, up 19%. Now, I don't mean recovering all that we've lost, but turning positive. And they're showing us down 6.2% for the year. Now, my numbers show us we're going to be down between 10 and 14% for the year. I don't think we recover till the fourth quarter, beginning of next year. It's by 10 to 14%. But guys, you think about it. We think we've been basically frozen in place for a month and a half, heading on 2 months. And yet we're looking at what I call very positive news. Now, let me even give you more positive news. Q1, first of 3 estimates came out last week from Bureau of Economic Analysis, and they're saying that our GDP only went down 4.8%. I say only, that's a horrible number, but that's about half what Goldman thought. So I'm going to say this up front, and I've been saying this every day since March 11th on these presentations. It's almost 100 of them right now that I've been on, that I've given. I think when it comes to 4th of July, we will not be through this, but we're going to be feeling so much better about it. We're going to be on the beach, at the condo, at the house, in the ranch, the backyard, whatever, drinking a couple cold ones, thinking, wow, not through it yet, but feeling a lot better. We're already there in many aspects. Now, just to show you that we're not all the way there yet, so to speak, St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank says that we're going to end up with 47 million unemployed by the end of this quarter, by the end of June. We currently, like I said, have 36 million. That's 11 million more people going to lose their jobs. And that'll hit our unemployment rate at 32%. Now, I had an economist friend say, man, we've never seen 32%. And I started thinking, well, I have seen it. And it was in New Orleans, only not the country, but in just New Orleans and Katrina. And here's what's different about this one. We're not going to be Katrina. Notice, they never even recovered all their jobs from Katrina, from the loss of the hurricane. Now, I think we're going to see a plunge like this without question when we finally count all the numbers. The difference is the only economic recovery plan in Katrina was politicians pointing a finger at each other. They didn't even pump out some of the neighborhoods in New Orleans for 9 or 10 months. They've been up to 10 feet deep underwater. No plan whatsoever. I think in this one, I think we're blessed and fortunate to have two people. That's Mnuchin, Secretary of the Treasury, and Powell, Chairman of the Fed. Y'all have to realize that Powell, in the first 30 days of this downturn, provided more liquidity in the U.S. economy than both the Federal Reserve and the administration did, presidential administration and Congress, during all of 2009. Now, these two guys, why do I like them so much? Powell and Mnuchin, they're business people. Thank God they're not politicians. Thank God they're not government employees. And I'm not taking a swipe at government employees, but government employees didn't become phenomenally successful by exceeding. And those two people, Mnuchin from Wall Street and Powell, Chairman of the Fed. Neatest thing about Powell, y'all need to appreciate this. He's not an economist, never been an academic. He's an attorney that did big financial deals. These two individuals understand, A, you have to respond very quickly, which we have this time, and B, it's got to keep some people, more the better, credit in place and home ownership in place. That's good news. So I'm going to praise them by trade. I always look for comparable sales. I would praise everything from a solid rocket missile plant to the Rock Resort hotels. Hey, guys, I got comps, not good comps, for what's going on, this coronavirus. Now, let me just set the stage real quick. We're going to look at a handful of economic variables, home sales being one of them. We're going to do annual data. Why annual data? Well, I live in Houston. Hurricane comes in, we plunge 40, 60,000 jobs, just lose them immediately. But within a month or two or three, they're all back. So it's not these months that count, it's what happens over the year. We're going to do that. We're going to look at the last two pandemics, SARS and H1N1, and then the last seismic event, 9/11. And I want to point out, first of all, on 9/11, I don't remember what you all were impacted or thought of when 9/11 happened. I thought when it happened, it would be amazing if our country came back within 10 years. 6 months later, I think the only thing that really changed, other than a lot higher patriotic spirit, we had to put up with TSA, but I'm willing to put up with TSA. So here we go. And lastly, those little blue boxes is when we had a recession. We had a recession before 9/11 hit. I don't think 9/11 changed much, may have lengthened a month or so. We already had at least up till then, the mother of all recessions in 08, the first half of 09. But that was caused by real estate because we overbuilt too much houses and also too much commercial real estate. So housing sales, year before and year after, went up through 9/11, went up through SARS. How about that? Now, housing sales plunged in 08, but that was recession, we'd overbuilt. Someone would say, well, look, swine flu, when everyone stayed home, made housing that much more important. Nah, 09 was dead cat bounce. We foreclosed so many homes in 08. We sold them at a massive discount in 09. In fact, we created a whole new asset class, single family rentals, completely different thing. And here's what median prices did. Went up through the recession of 9/11, went up through SARS. We plunged in 08 in values. We kind of bottomed in 09 on median prices. But notice, we peaked in 06 at around 225,000. We sold all that stuff off at about 175, hence creating the single family rental class asset. 30-year mortgage rates went down through SARS. They stabilized, went down through 9/11, excuse me. They kind of stabilized with SARS. SARS had nothing to do with that. Rates went down because the recession, they don't always go down in recession. We'll talk about that in a second. And then our unemployment rate. It went up through 9/11, recession. It was kind of flat year before and after SARS. And then H1N1, we got up almost 10%. Remember, I just told you, though, that entire year, That was less than 10%. We're already at 22% unemployment now, heading to 32 potentially. Guys, this is unprecedented unemployment. But why did I show you this? First of all, I'm not going to say to you that coronavirus is just like the swine flu. We went through all that. And you notice that we didn't attribute any of those big fluctuations, any of those major variables to swine flu or H1N1. Swine flu in 2009, 60.8 million Americans contracted swine flu. 274,000 were hospitalized. 12,500 perished. Nothing like coronavirus, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, coronavirus hasn't run its course. We don't have a vaccine yet or anything else like that, but start to look up now.
Look at the Boat Buckle Pro Series Quick Lock Transom Tie Down.
What was that? I'm sorry. All right. So look at this coronavirus. And there's good news in this. First of all, for full disclosure, I've had a granddaughter contract coronavirus and a son-in-law. Granddaughter was pretty much recovered in 5 days. Son-in-law took him a month. Good news is they're recovered. But let me give you good news, that top number. Let's round it to 3.7 million. 3.7 million people in the world thus far have been attributed to having had the coronavirus. We know it's a lot more than that. First of all, we know there's millions of people that had coronavirus. They weren't sick enough to know that. Didn't go to the doctor, weren't assessed, weren't diagnosed, any of that kind of stuff. And secondly, we know China lies like my lion dog Scruffy. Scruffy lies because he wants to convince you he hadn't been fed that day. And some days I think he convinces 6 people he needs to be fed. Only 2 of them need to do that. But let's look at China, and let me tell you some good news about this. Not because China's had it at all. That's not what I'm talking about. China claims they've had 83,000 cases. Big lie. But let's say they're lying not by a factor of 100% or 200%. Let's say they're lying by a factor of 1,000%. Instead of having 83,000 cases, that they had 830,000. And there's good news in this. You say, how could that be, Ted? Because China has 1.4 billion people. Guys, if only 830,000 had it, that means 6 or 7/10 of 1% of people had it, and that means it's not as communicable. And see that link on the bottom? If you want to see everyday daily count by country, you go to that and see it. But they also list the Diamond Princess. That's that cruise ship that went into Japan. They'd been at the ocean for several weeks. Coronavirus was in them before they left. They then quarantined them on the dock for another 2 weeks. Can you imagine 3,700 crew and passengers getting off the ship, been there for 4 weeks, and out of that 3,700 people, 713, I think, contracted it, and we only had 13 fatalities. Only 13, that's not many. There's hope here, I'm trying to tell you all this. Now, just to show you that we kind of lose focus, we always zoom in on what's bad at that point in time. Flu season, fall 2017, spring of 2018, 61,000 Americans perished because of the flu. Now, what's good every place and what's bad every place is not every place. It's just like an athlete. If they're in fit, physical, peak condition, and they get sick, they'll heal quicker. We have some states are going to fare very well out of this. And I notice these are economic faring, not coronavirus faring. And others that are already losing jobs. Well, for example, in Hawaii, they've already laid off, 3 weeks ago, they laid off 1 out of every 5 workers, leisure and hospitality. Tax Foundation, we already had seen an exodus from certain states, whether it's Northeast, they were heading to Florida, and some of the South. California was exiting to everything in the Pacific Northwest, the Southwest. All this is going to do, just like the tax cuts did, is accelerate that. So I think we're going to see departures pick up, or actually not pick up, it's going to speed up as soon as they can move. And my tweets say that. Now, I want to show you this one. This is super sector analysis. And depending on what type of jobs you have and which markets is going to be a function of how quick you recover. And I underline leisure and hospitality. If there's one ground zero sector, it's leisure and hospitality. Just pointed out, for example, that Hawaii had already lost 21% of all their jobs already. That was a couple of weeks ago. But in the U.S., 10.6% of all jobs are in leisure and hospitality, which has been shut down. Not before last, I went up to Dallas to give a presentation. In a Hilton Garden Inn downtown Dallas, in the hundreds of rooms, 4 rooms were occupied that night. To put it in perspective, 3 other nearby hotels were essentially closed. They had closed down. They weren't even accepting reservations. They weren't full. It just weren't closed down at all, operate at all. So what you have here is going to impact how quickly you recover. Now, I live in Houston. We have a double whammy. Notice in the U.S. they're 0.5% mining, logging, that includes oil and gas. If your market, like Houston, Texas, is being driven by oil and gas are in the $20 range, we think break-evens in the mid-30s, you got a double whammy on that market. Oil energy prices, though, are going to help us out of this recession quicker for the 99.5% of Americans who aren't tied to the energy industry. Last four recessions, the last four on the right, those yellow columns going up, energy was the same or cheaper after the recession than before the recession. Now, why is that important? If we gave a tax cut to all Americans, half of it wouldn't benefit because half of all U.S. households pay no federal income taxes. If we cut energy prices, 99.5% of people have more money in their pockets, and that's exactly what's happening today. Job losses, if you're in the extraction jobs, they're going to occur 2 years after oil prices went down. If you're in cities where headquarters are at, all those jobs are cut within 6 months. So it's going to vary where you're at. Now, good news, at least in the last five recessions, interest rates have gone down during the recession. That wasn't true in the early 70s and 80s. We had this nasty thing called stagflation. There's nothing worse than that when it comes to real estate. Stagnant economy, which means reduced demand for all kinds of real estate every day. And inflation, which means everything costs more. That's insurance or maintenance or homeowners, everything costs more. We have just the opposite going on right now. 30-year rates last week, y'all know this better than I do, 3.23% nationwide. Now, a lot of areas, by the way, my dissertation when I got my PhD in finance in the early 80s was on systematic differences in residential mortgage rates across the U.S. I live in Texas. We are actually seeing some high credit worthy individuals right now getting 30-year refinances in the 2.6% range. It'll be higher in other areas, but lowest we've seen, and that's good news. 30-year treasuries, lowest we've ever seen in history. Great news. That's why I'm not worried about all the federal deficit financing, because President Trump actually said it, and I believe he's correct on this one. We're borrowing the money for free. Inflation's 1.5%. You're paying 1.29%. In other words, over the life of that 30-year treasury, you'll actually pay back fewer real dollars after you adjust for inflation than we borrowed. Home sales, good news. Great home sales coming in this, but that's over, and it's over, and we're going to tell you why. Now, here's home sales forecast, and in MBA, they were a little bit older forecast. They were early April. Fannie Mae benefited from being later. Fannie Mae showing existing home sales down 15% this year, up 15% next year. I'm going to disagree. I actually think home sales will be double down this year. I'm not going to doubt they'll come back next year, but I think this year is going to be hard, and I'll show you why. Now, here at Stewart, we're traded on the New York Stock Exchange, our company. We just did 2 weeks ago, this week, we did our first quarter earnings release covering January, February, March. In those calls and in our earnings release, we don't discuss what's going on in April because it's only first quarter. A couple of our competitors noted that home purchase orders, and they're talking about title insurance orders from home purchases, in the first 3 weeks of April, one of them said their purchase orders were down 43%, another one 47%. That says Fannie Mae is very optimistic at minus 15%. So I have this thing, I call it a sanity test. Let's just say that home sales are going to be 30% down this year. All right. So instead of the 5 million and change, we're going to be 3.7 million. I just took the median price there. I'm not going to assume any home price change, value change. I think new home sales are going to hold their own. Why? We're already seeing a rush for people to buy new, safe, clean, never occupied dwellings. Sometimes premiums are paid for it. And I just stuck in the current new home price. Loan to value ratio 80%, 20% cash sales. I'm looking at 2.2 trillion in residential lending this year. Now, here's the other reason I'm looking at home sales being down. I just logged into the Houston Association of Realtors site. I was past chairman there in 2004. Number of new listings, all right, in April of this year compared to April last year, down 33%. Kind of hard to sell more homes when you're down 33%. Notice that kind of supports my 30%. Sales this April, down 35%. And well, it's going to get ugly. Now, this slide Total residential lending, the yellow bars on the right, that's Fannie Mae's forecast, not mine. Notice Fannie Mae's coming in around 2.5 trillion. I'm at 2.2 trillion. But Fannie Mae is still forecasting rates down in 2020 and going down further in 2021. What about home values? What's going to happen? Because y'all as lenders are going to have to look at, equity in homes and home values, the whole works. I'm going to tell you some markets are going to go down, some markets will hold their own well. I live in Houston, Texas. This is a metric I developed 30 years ago, and it's played out extremely well. It tells me if I've overbuilt, underbuilt, or, in the three little bears just right, topology. I looked at this one. The first column shows total number of new jobs in the MSA. And in Houston, 400,000 and change. Then total number of new dwelling unit permits. That includes everything from apartments to townhouse to condos to quadplexes, triplexes, apartments, mansions, single family dwellings, a whole. I think you need at least 1.25 to 1.5 new jobs per new dwelling just for market equilibrium. In Houston, we've overbuilt. We only have, and that's through 2019, we only had 1 new job per new dwelling unit. Let me do the flip. We had overbuilt this one. Let me do the flip. Go to Miami. In Miami, if you look at it, 417,000 new jobs, 137,000 change new dwelling units. They got 3 new jobs per new dwelling unit, and that doesn't even consider that a lot of people that move to Miami first don't need a job, and they buy a home. So this is one of those markets I wouldn't be at all surprised if rents and values continue to go up, albeit at a reduced rate from what we've seen. And then if you want to kind of look at kind of the 8 markets, Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington is one of those. I said 1.25 to 1.5. They have 1.88. I think you're going to see those rents and those values pretty much hold. So some markets are going to go up, some markets go down, some markets be the same. Again, it's going to be supply demand telling us all about that. And 3 in Seattle, Tacoma, another one of those markets we just haven't built enough. Difficult to build enough in that market too. So let me wrap this thing up and we'll talk some questions. I'm expecting a very deep, I'm agreeing with Goldman Sachs completely. Expecting a very deep but extremely short recession. They're showing will be out by the end of Q2. I'm thinking Q4, beginning of Q1 next year, somewhere in there. Good news is we entered this downturn with the best wage growth we've had in 10 years. And we entered with more jobs any time in history. And we were physically fit and healthy before this thing hit. Record low interest rates can help us out. It's going to, first of all, put a lot of money in people's pockets, but only those that still have a credit rating and a job. I can't imagine with that new 24-hour requirement, to see if they're still employed before y'all cut the funding, issue the funding, how many people are going to either have had cut back hours, even though in the loan process, the original application, they were okay, and not make that. Hence why I'm not as upbeat on Fannie and Freddie on the refi volume, even on that. Cheap energy puts more money in people's pocket. Remember, unlike tax cuts, cheap energy benefits everyone unless you live in an oil and gas manufacturing area. In the short term, we're going to see a lot more jobs in things like manufacturing. We're already seeing that. We're building face masks, PPE, personal protection equipment, respirators, the whole works. Now, here's what I will tell you. We're going to see drive-through everything. I took this picture of Germany in 2005. Germans are brilliant. They didn't name them drive-through at McDonald's. They call them muck drives. Every drive-through at McDonald's in the world ought to be called muck drive. But that said, here, Stuart, you talk about how we're changing our business, and I know you're changing yours too. Here is a couple, and notice our Stuart Title building. They pulled into a U-Haul, moving into town. They bought a property sight unseen. They did it with a virtual tour. We're getting the wet signatures here. They didn't even get out of their U-Haul truck. Y'all, U-Haul, you need to understand this is going to expedite to digital mortgages. And until you get to digital mortgages, you're not going to be able to control your costs and your quickness information flow like you need to. This is changing the way we do business. Now, this is one of our agents up in Minnesota. Who would ever imagine this agent, title insurance agent, independent agent, they bought an old bank building and they had no idea what to do with the drive-through. It's now closing room number 1. Oh, and let me tell you what's important about that. Closings now, you don't even have to be there. The realtor doesn't have to be there. The buyer and seller don't have to be there. All the stuff that we're doing. This is one of our agents, one of our owned offices. Imagine how we're changing the way we do business. So here's what's come permanent. I think we're going to have a lot more manufacturing permanently. Why? Cheap energy says that. And we're not going to make as much stuff in China. Our pharmaceuticals right now to treat the coronavirus, which came from China, are made by China. I think that's going to all cease. We have just expedited to the paperless real estate transaction process. I did a paperless and personalist. I wasn't there during closing last October. I'm going to show you pictures in a few minutes. We're looking at remote everything, remote notaries, remote appraisals, remote closings. Guys, this is going to become the norm. Drive through everything. Office demand. I don't know how much office space y'all use, but I'm willing to bet that a year from now it's going to be less than you have today. We've just proven we don't need as much office. Now, I'm in Houston's global headquarters for Stewart Title in the Galleria area in Houston. We rent several floors in a building, a couple blocks in the Galleria, 15,000 square feet per floor. And this floor today, as it has been basically for the last month and a half, 2 months, CEOs in one corner, CIOs in another corner, HR rep and me, HR head and myself. And so there's 4 of us in 15,000 square feet, and yet we're still doing everything we need to do. We just don't need the office space. I think we'll forever change that. On the other hand, I think demand for industrial property, it's forever grown. Why? Well, everything that you don't buy from a retail storefront that you do buy comes from an industrial property. Think of Amazon Prime and everything else. Also, as we do more manufacturing, that comes from industrial space. And we're even going to store more stuff. We're going to store personal protection equipment. I wouldn't even be surprised if we hoard toilet paper in a federal warehouse someplace. Leisure hospitality, direct hit from the blast. It is going to be a difficult summer. Think about Disneyland, Disney World. Disney World in prior history, I think, hadn't been closed 6 days or 7 days. We've now been closed a month and a half, heading on 2 months. Some of the Wall Street analysts are saying they doubt that Disney World or any of the Disney properties will reopen until January next year. Wow. Leisure hospitality direct hit. Oil prices remain low. It benefits 99.5% of consumers. I tweet. I challenge y'all to read my Twitter account. I blog there too. Oh, and one other quick sidelight. Official grocery store workers are now the superhero club. Tip your bagger next time you go to the grocery store, guys. They earn it. I want to show you my paperless closing. I don't know if you've been to St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands. I've owned property there since the 80s. This is called, well, why St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands? 60% of St. John's a national park. It'll never be built on. This is investment property. It's not even you call it a recreation home, but it's an investment property. And you talk about how we purchased this thing. I knew it was available for sale. We were there last July, but you can't tour it until the occupant who's ever rented it for the week or whatever checks out. So I called my realtor friend and I said, I want to look at it. He says, they check out at 10:30 on Sunday morning. So we go out down there at 10:30 Sunday morning, 60 condos in the Gallows Point Resort. We're looking through it, and my realtor, my investor broker, brought his iPad. 5 minutes, we said, we'll make an offer on the iPad. Boom, DocuSign. Just done. By the way, if you want to forge my DocuSign signature, that's it right there. So then my broker emailed it to the listing broker and then called her and said, I just sent you an offer on Gallows Point Resort. She said, that's amazing. The seller was a retiring doctor from New Jersey and his wife. They had just called her, but they were on vacation in Italy, and so it was early evening in Italy. He just wanted to see if there was anything going on that past week. She called him right back. She says, hey, I got an offer for you. She emailed it to him from her iPad to his iPad. He countered with his iPad DocuSign, sent it to her, who sent it to my realtor, and I accepted. How about this, guys? You just had a couple from Texas negotiate a property in St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands, being sold by a couple from New Jersey that were on vacation in Italy, and we were done 21 minutes start to finish. Oh, and by the way, at closing, I wasn't there. He wasn't there. Realtors weren't there. We did a closing, it was completely remoteless and completely paperless. The only time I ever signed my name. Had nothing to do with officially with the closing process. It's 3 weeks later after the closing in October when I was there. My attorney said, if you'd like a copy of the closing documents or even on a fob, I'll give them to you, but sign your name here to prove that I gave them to you. Y'all get this stuff? Things are different. I want to show you this. This is one from our Stewart people in Tampa, Florida. She and her husband's condo looks out on the cruise ship basin out there. And notice on the balconies, they wrote in there, "We will be back." I believe this. Our country will come back, guys. Look, we came back within 6 months from 9/11. May not be that quick here, but I guarantee you, come 4th of July, we'll be feeling better about ourselves having a cold one, celebrating the 4th of July. Hey, I'm open to any questions or comments that y'all have, and anything you want to say, I'm available. Let's hear it. What do you think, Tom?
I love it, Ted. I appreciate all the visuals and a great perspective too. I think we spend so much time focusing on mortgage industry specifics and what's going to move the needle as far as bringing back production or how it relates back to the economy. And I love the perspective and kind of looking larger scale at the U.S. and global economies in general, and kind of looking at some of those key indicators that could, foretell what the future has in store. Not to mention, I like the montage at the beginning, some great content on some new fun recreational activities we've all made part of our daily lives through the COVID environment. So well done. On that note, I want to remind our attendees, it's an opportunity. Any questions you have for Ted, please feel free to filter those through either the Q&A or chat functions, and I'll go ahead and present those over. I've got a couple in here already. One anonymous attendee wanted you to let you know, excellent presentation and appreciate the upbeat nature. Question for you. Any of your factors take into account for a potential second wave of COVID-related infections after economies start to open back up, as we're seeing a kind of push to reopen economic segments where we can, and the current shelter-in-place environment?
First of all, we don't know if there'll be a second wave or not. We don't. What we don't know is how many people have had this, and that was that big number I said up front. But what we do know, even if it's 10 million people have contracted coronavirus, 10 million out of a global population of 7 billion is minuscule. And so I think that, good news is too, that at least typically most viruses in the past have sequestered themselves a bit, at least over the summertime. We don't know. One of the other thing globally that's helping us right now, this hasn't hit the third world countries. Now imagine this. We have good health. We have good sanitation, some of the best in the world here. I want you to think about countries like Honduras and Kenya and what have you, don't even have fresh water to wash their hands. Thank God that this didn't break out there first. Thank heavens we get maybe a chance to get some virus or at least immunology testing and what have you on that. I didn't consider that, but we all know it is going to stare us in the face without question. Also, you have to kind of wonder how come some areas are been hit so hard and others weren't. And I grew up on a sheep ranch, and you always have this herd mentality. If you run enough livestock together, they'll kind of, whatever disease goes through them, will eventually get to everyone, they'll develop antibodies. We don't know what our herd comparison is on this virus within our population. We won't know that till we have good antibody tests, guys. A lot of uncertainty here. That on the other hand, I will guarantee you that when it comes to 4th of July, we're going to feel better about it than we do right now. And I think that's one of the reasons why many of the analysts are saying, the Disney companies will not reopen their parks till after the first of the year because of just what you said there. I'm going to tell you right now, my bets are not over at all. Still concerned on the 4th of July, but it's not going to stop us from going out. Hopefully that does not cause us to be infected. I do want to go back to that Princess Diamond. How in the heck do you have for 4 weeks 3,700 crew and passengers on a cruise ship where it's almost impossible to completely disinfect on an hourly basis, much less on a daily basis, and yet only 713 out of the 3,700 passengers came down? That says to me contagion is not as severe as we think it is.
That's a great point, Ted, especially when you're talking about a controlled environment like what you'd face on a cruise ship, where there's nowhere to go. Another question coming in. I'm wondering if you can add a little bit more perspective about China and what might happen if relations between the U.S. and China economically were to worsen more so than where we're at today.
You have to understand, I've talked about China and trade with China for a decade. In fact, if you'd heard my presentation a year ago, I'd have told you that, I would, if it had my druthers, I would cease trade with China today. And that was a year ago, long before this. And here's the reason why. Go back to a year ago, and we were buying a little over $500 billion from China. And they were buying $100 billion and change. So we're buying 4 times as much from them as they were buying from us. But the rules of trade is why that I completely disagree with trading with them. I don't have a problem that we buy more from them than they buy from us. There are countries that buy more from us than we buy from them. But here's my problem with China on this level of the playing field, so to speak. Buick, have y'all ever been to China? Have you ever been to China, Tom?
I have not.
All right, so in China, if you go there, what's going to dumbfound you? You're going to go to the major cities and you're going to see rich people driving Buicks, rich Chinese driving Buicks. And you're going to scratch your head thinking, what the heck? Well, General Motors and Buick have been incredibly successful. As if you drive a Buick, that means you are the new millionaire. You are the newly arrived successful entrepreneur, and it is the car of, it's kind of like driving a Tesla or a Rolls Royce or something like that here. And my hat's off to General Motors for doing this. But now when General Motors would export a Buick into China, let's say that car costs $50,000. On the way in, the Chinese would charge a 25% import tariff. So that $50,000 vehicle was tariffed $12,500. So that means you sell a lot less in there. When China would ship a vehicle, a motorized vehicle of any kind to us, under their terms, the maximum that we could ever tax that one, and if we tax them more, they would cease trade with us, was 2.5%. So they're charging 25%, all right, and we're charging 2.5%. So now, well, let me put it this way. Everyone's played the board game Monopoly, right? So we're playing Monopoly. Chinese against the U.S. And here's the rules. Chinese, when you pass go, you collect $200. Y'all from the U.S., when you pass go, you collect $20. Who's going to win? China. My next question is, why are you even playing America? Because you're going to lose. I don't want to trade under those rules. And when you have those kind of rules, trade doesn't work. And that's why I'm really happy with the new trade agreements with both Canada and Mexico. I would much rather buy everything we're buying from China from Mexico or Canada today. All of it. Our countries would be better off. We would be better off because they buy more stuff from us. It bothers me nothing whatsoever to trade with Chinese, not to trade with Chinese.
Appreciate that. Ted, another question for you. You touched on in your slides kind of the different industry segments and what kind of impact each are seeing right now in the current COVID environment. From your perspective, do you see any industry in particular whose recovery would have more of an impact than others per se on helping spur improvement in the housing and mortgage finance market?
Can I go back to that slide? Let me
Sure.
show you where, if you want to look at recovery, first of all, it's going to be where are most of our jobs at, number one. And number two, where did we lose most of our jobs? Leisure and hospitality, like I say, in the U.S., it's 1 out of 10 jobs. Trade, transportation, utilities is 2 out of every 10 jobs. Good news is, other than the trade size, transportation utilities aren't down as much. Now, I have one of my cousins owns a very large trucking company, and over 1,500 semis on the road every day. His miles are down about 20%. So I would tell you effectively we probably reduced the trade industry, the transportation industry about 20%. I'm probably pretty much sure that's probably general across the country. Leisure and hospitality, 100% reduction almost 100% reduction. We've hurt leisure and hospitality so much. One of the estimate is that 30% of the restaurants that have closed will never reopen. Those kind of businesses run on a day-to-day net cash flow. In fact, if you've got that favorite local even if it's a chain restaurant like McCormick and Speck's or something like owned by Tillman Fertitta, or if it's that local hole-in-the-wall restaurant, and you want to keep them in business, you better go do business tonight. Either do curbside takeaway or go in and eat. We can do that in Houston, Texas now, by the way. So that's the big one that we've seen the losses in leisure and hospitality. And I'm sure in leisure and hospitality, we've wiped out 90% plus of those jobs. That's 9 out of every 100 jobs, folks. Ground zero. And the quicker you get that. Now, that said, I'm also willing to bet in leisure and hospitality, a lot of that are not homeowners. Those are typically lower paying jobs. Not only will it spur even more demand for Class B and C apartments on housing side, moving from A's down without question, it's probably not going to impact the refinancing as much. It's not going to impact home purchases as much. If you want to see where home purchases come into play, come into construction, come up into manufacturing. I think manufacturing's going to have a big growth period the next 3 years after we wrap this thing up. We're going to make more of everything here and in Canada and Mexico, and that's all beneficial to us. Financial activities, which is y'all, naturally, professional and business services, education and health services, those are all primary home buyers if you think about it. Good news is thus far we haven't hit them as bad. So I think perhaps we've talked about this internally here at Stewart. One of the reasons maybe Fannie's only looking at a 15% decline in home sales this year is where the jobs were lost weren't the home buying segment. It could be.
Great point. Great point, Ted. Appreciate that perspective. Want a reminder to our attendees, last call here. If you've got any questions that you want to ask of Dr. Ted, please feel free to submit those via the Q&A or chat functions, and I'll ask those up. Ted, I've got another one for you here, and you kind of touched on this in part of your presentation, but I want to give you the opportunity to kind of answer and comment back to it. As we were talking about towards the tail end, how different the world's going to look like just through, so many different workforces, permanently adapting the remote environment based off the productivity, staying pretty close to status quo that they're seeing from, traditional office setting. I would imagine, I'll let you comment, but you see substantial reduction in commercial financing to that point exactly as people and companies start to adapt more of their workforce permanently working in a remote setting.
A couple of great questions, by the way. And there's a lot of things going to go into this thing. First of all, for all of us that have stayed at home, now I've been fortunate, I've come to the office every day. I'm worried about bandwidth. Even though I have a fiber optic line in my house for internet, I got a couple hundred homes ahead of me sucking down Netflix so bad that I was kind of worried if it would maintain itself here. So I'm proud your internet's staying up so well. But as we've stayed at home more, whether we've been in apartments or at our own home, the value of where we're living or the impact of it becomes that much more magnified. So we have a group, and we're already seeing this, a group of apartment dwellers that are already saying, I got to buy my own home. And that may not happen this year, but it may indeed fuel the sales for next year. Hence why Fannie Mae is looking at such an upbeat for next year. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So, and then we have a large number of people that say, if I'm going to spend this much time in this house, then I got to get a new house. And then I'll offer that other segment. There's a segment of a couple together. If they're spending that much time in that house right now, they're going to get 2 other houses in the future. We all know that some of that's going to happen. It happened during 9/11 in a way type thing. Second thing, the phenomenon that's taking place right now, among those that still have their job, and that's a large number of Americans. That's 4 out of 5 of them that had the job beforehand that haven't been laid off. Oh, and by the way, a lot of those layoffs we know were temporary. A lot of them say, you go lay off, you take this and come back the second we can spool back up. Those that still have their job are saving more money right now than they've ever saved their entire lives. Where are you going to spend it? I mean, there's only so much stuff Amazon Prime can deliver to your doorstep. We're going to see people, assuming this goes on, and I think it'll at least continue to May in some areas longer, we're going to see people walk out of this quarantine and sequestration with the largest lump sum of cash they've ever had in their checking account, savings account in the history of their lives. And that's going to kind of bode well for when the economy does spool back up, both home buying and purchasing of other stuff. So I think all that changes. That said, I think one of the questions, and I've asked several really top commercial realtors and residential realtors, what's going to be the added value of a really good home office? If you got two homes, one of them has a great home office and one of them is just a bedroom, and it doesn't not separate. I think there's going to be a difference there too. I have no doubt we're just going to be working from home a lot more than we've ever worked from home before. We're going to have a lot less demand for commercial office space. I think I'm going to ask your lenders, how many of y'all today, if you had to do over, would rent the same amount of office space, knowing what you know today? And I'm willing to bet almost to a T, every one of you say, I don't need as much as I have right now, or I completely need a different configuration. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see space that's more conductive as a group. When you bring people in to meet together, I'm not worried about 6 foot spacing a year from now. Vaccines, everything, we'll take that away. We're going to get comfortable with that, everything else. Look at the comfort you have going to the store today that you didn't have a month and a half ago, even though you were not wearing a mask. Think about this. But we're going to have this kind of space that's more conducive and contributory to group thought and creativity. And I don't know that we've invented that space yet. Maybe some of the original .com companies invented that when they had their ping pong and everything else. I don't think we have to bring people to work in cubicles anymore. We've proven they can do that offsite much more effectively and cheaper than we're doing it right now.
That's a great point, where I think you would see a lot more open shared workspaces where you could have people coming in and out, or be just more centrally conducive to bringing in clients or entire teams. But to your point, now you've got me thinking about how can I upgrade my home office in case I ever want to sell in the future as added benefits.
And think what else you need in there. I mean, and look at your industry too. I truly think that the digital mortgage is a thing of the future. It's a thing of today. I can't imagine working in this environment. And I tell my realtor friends this every day. I can't imagine. I'm going to go back to 30 years ago when the MLS was a paper booklet. I grew up on a sheep ranch in Montrose, Colorado. We had one TV station, one radio station. That was it. Grew up on a sheep ranch. I can remember when I started my appraisal company that the MLS in Montrose, Colorado was printed once a month in a booklet paper. And every Friday you got an addenda page or two of what changed. Can you imagine living in that environment today selling real estate? How about y'all? Do y'all remember before the facts came out how you got your interest rates for that day? You think about how this has changed. I had a friend who went to college with a guy by the name of Mike Murphy, a lender. He used to work with Cornerstone and what have you. And I'll never forget, and guys, this is 15, 18 years ago. And Mike's my age. We got our master's degree together. And I said, Mike, you sold your company. What are you going to do? He said, I'm making loans. I said, where's your office? He said, I don't need an office. This is Mike. Now, Mike lived in Houston, Texas, and we're both Aggies from Texas A&M. It's about an hour and a half drive. I said, how are you going to make a living without an office and just you? And he says, I've rented a billboard for football season on the way to and from College Station. And every Aggie driving up there, it's a billboard that says, Mike Murphy, class of such and such, Texas A&M. Let me finance your home purchase or refinance your house. And he by the way, I did my loan application, first one ever on the internet 20 years ago with Mike. To think about that, a long time ago. And I said, some weekends, how's it going? He says, well, some weekends he would get up to 400 applications. Y'all get this off a stinking billboard? That's old school and new school both. And Mike invented new school. And Mike's a good old boy, but he's one of the most brilliant lenders I've ever met in my entire life. Guys, think where we came from and what we have to do. And think how all this is expediting in this thing. And it's going to allow you to do more what you do best. You're not going to be shuffling stinking papers anymore, thank God, because all that is it's a leech. It's sucking all the blood out of your system. You're going to get to do what you do most effectively at all, make loans. Y'all get that? Make loans.
No, that's a fantastic point. It speaks to some of the examples that you showed earlier, some of the pictures on how closings are being conducted right now in lieu of the COVID environment. And, if it's one thing that comes out of it for the industry, we've been pushing for this digital mortgage and digital closing process to gain adoption for years. And I think it's becoming very clear right now that this will be that turning point. people gain a comfort level just through necessity of having to facilitate their closing remotely, that becomes the norm of our new normal in the future lending environment.
You nailed it, man.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I don't have any additional questions coming in from the attendees. Dr. Ted, I want to thank you so much for leading our discussion today and sharing your invaluable insights with our members, and to all the attendees for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and listen in. Truly appreciate the time, and obviously, so I hope you stay well and stay sane in Texas, and to all our attendees across the country that you do the same as well, and that everybody keeps fighting a good fight, and we'll push through.
Honored to be here, guys. Look forward to coming back sometime. As we say in Texas, adios, y'all.
We would love that. Thank you so much, Ted. Have a great afternoon, everybody.